Joe Budden's Patreon is falling apart.
I can attest to how bad the Patreon.
They haven't been that great, honestly, lately.
They haven't?
Not lately.
Okay.
You've been rethinking your subscription?
No, I'm gonna keep it. It's still base level shit. But the thing is, he's talking about upping the price on it now, and I'm like,
yeah, that is
what?
Now it's starting to get a little shaky.
You're supposed to up the price when it's hot.
He had a chance to up it because there was a moment I was like, these episodes going crazy.
Yeah, true.
I want my money back. All this.
They
ran out.
They gotta give something up, bro. They can't keep talking about, like, to Denny's point. They can't keep just talking about
even an Eric.
That shit getting stale.
The $10 don't get every Friday episode. No, I pay $25.
Bro.
I pay $25.
I get most of them Friday episodes, bro.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the $10 tier for the longest used to get the same Monday, Friday episodes as the 25, and I felt like that was the scam.
That's right, y'all. It seems like Joe Budden's Patreon is in decline. And I'm starting to notice a trend, one that is very alarming. And I played some clips for you at the beginning of this video to kind of validate my claims. Because a lot of people are going to say, Danny, you have this war with Joe. You mad that he chose whatever. He chose Shigs over you. But I had to add some other voices because people are going to think I'm just hating. But it's something I've been noticing before that interaction with me and Joe ever happened. And that is that the Patreon for the Joe Budden podcast is falling apart. And here's why. First, there's the tier dispute that's going on. The $25 tier is supposed to be the tier that gets the most content. However, it appears that the $10 tier is almost getting the same level of content, which is very alarming and problematic if you are shelling out the big bucks. Then there's the $50 tier, which you are supposed to be able to mail questions to the show and they will answer it. However, when they do those questions, it's very rarely done. It's never consistent. They don't seem to be actually answering questions anymore. And I don't even know if they're really going to Patreon people or just making up the questions they want to answer. They used to have people call the show, but then they stopped doing that for whatever reason. And on top of this, the creativity of the Patreon is sorely lacking. From my vantage point, it looks like the podcast is trying to entertain more discussions that personally exist between the podcasts. So they'll talk about their night out on the town. They'll talk about, issues with their baby mamas, but they don't want to talk about the podcast industry. They don't want to conversate, I guess, essentially the gossip topics, because whatever reason they think that is more interesting. And I know a lot of you are going to say, Danny, but they don't want to be messy. Why they got to be messy? Well, I think you need to be messy because it needs to be balanced. When it starts to become one thing more than the other, that's an issue. Too much of one thing is bad. Like if they did just straight messy content, that would be a problem. But now I'm tired. I'm telling you, I'm tired of hearing about Emanny and Joe and they late night on Friday. They text each other. They want to go hang out with the baddies. They see Bernice Burgos. And how many times are you going to tell that story about seeing a girl that has a lot of followers and you trying to mack it? It's not engaging. It's repetitive. Also, Joe Budden released the Larry Jackson interview on his Patreon only to release it on YouTube. What kind of message does that send to the patronies? Never mind that the Larry Jackson interview was a big bag of payola. I'm not saying Larry Jackson paid for it, but I think there was some under the table deal, or at least Joe saw it as something that was advantageous for him to do, as the interview was pretty stale. Yes, Larry Jackson is highly intelligent, but he refused to talk about anything, and the whole interview just stunk it up. And he's also going to be interviewing Bryson Tiller. I believe that's going to come out on Patreon. I got to tell you, man, I really have no impression of Bryson Tiller other than he makes good music, but I don't think he's going to be a good interview. So the Patreon's on a bad run. My guess is Joe Budden is going to drop 2 big interviews at the end of the month so people can make sure to leave their auto subscribe. and he could recoup the money. Now, I think Joe Budden's Patreon used to be really engaging, especially when Flip arrived. Before Flip got there, though, it sucked. It fell into the same rut it is in now, where it was heavily focused on talking about night out on the town. And then it got even crazier because Joe tried to pivot during the Ice and Ish era to getting a little bit more messy, where he would talk about Rory and Mal and the breakup with them. But then he was like, I think this is what I observed. He was like, you know, Ice and Ish really don't give it up like that. I need somebody who's going to be more of a wild card. So he brought in Flip and Melissa Ford. So now I believe history has repeated itself. And it's hit a wall. It's hit a ceiling. And Joe might look to rejigger the podcast. And I don't think Emanny's going to cut it. Emanny's not bad, but he doesn't have the energy that he had when he first got there. I think he's slow walking the dog. He's not getting messy. I remember when Emanny first got there, he was like, I'll go at OVO. If OVO got a problem with me, I'll slap him up. But now it's a little bit more measured. He is becoming more of a PC Potter, which is a sad sight to see. Still, the Patreon has a loyal fan base, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people will stay locked in. But I'm just saying, it's becoming kind of a missable Patreon experience. Whereas before, you had to check everything out. And even people like Lauren from Menace Material Entertainment and some of the hardcore Joe Vengers are noticing a fall off. But let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you think I made my case. I feel like a lot of people are going to be like, hey, man, Danny, why you beefing with Joe? You just mad he exposed your picture. You just mad that he prefers Shigs. That's really not it. This is objective Danny. This is Danny that really is doing the science. And I'm not here to just bash Joe's Patreon for the sake of bashing Joe's Patreon. I've been feeling like this. But, like I said, and I'll say it again and I'll say it more times, do the science in the comments. Alright, y'all. Follow me on Instagram, The Stop TV. Follow me on Twitter, The Stop TV. This is Danny from The Stop. Peace.